Well, technology and all its pros and cons has led to a great deal of conversation around really different aspects of the last couple of years, particularly the impact that it'll have on the labor market. There are, of course, fears that some jobs are at risk of being replaced by artificial intelligence. But there are senior professionals, board members, and even politicians who are also likely to be replaced by machines. Could it really stretch that far? Is the question we're asking tonight. Joining us to talk about artificial intelligence is a futurist from Tomorrow Today Global, Graeme Codrington. Can you believe Graeme Codrington in the flesh in studio? We always have the virtual chat, so it's great to have you in studio tonight.
With this topic, Kathy, I had to prove that I was actually a real person and not some virtual reality.
And understandably so. You know, the talk around technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is taking on a life of its own. And there seems to be, you know, one dominant part of this conversation, which is, that's good, let's bring in technology more. But what are the dangers of artificial intelligence?
Well, obviously the biggest danger for humans is that we lose our jobs. And in some cases, of course, some people think, well, maybe that's a good idea. So some laborers go out on strike, and people say, well, why don't we just get the machines to replace them? I think, and this is the point of artificial intelligence, it's not just manual labors being replaced by robots now. It's the thinking parts of the business, senior leaders, senior executives, professionals. And the thing that caught my attention recently is SoftBank, which is a Japanese bank, has now got a computer on its board of directors. An artificial intelligence machine that does a double check of all its investments. And Estonia has announced that they are thinking of putting a computer in their cabinet as one of the cabinet members. Again, just to do a double check of some of the decisions. And I think that there's good positives there, but of course you can see if that flows further into the future, a lot more people are at risk of losing their jobs.
So here's the difficulty, right? Because effectively, computers are taught how to think by humans, and therefore it means that they exhibit within them certain biases of the humans that put them together. What risk does that then pose going into a future where you do have the thinking, the diversity, the context of a human being being replaced by a machine?
Yeah, the early versions of artificial intelligence certainly showed that. So Microsoft released a little artificial intelligent Twitter handle. And within about 3 hours it had turned very racist and very sexist because it was learning from other tweets. And it hadn't got any limits placed on it. And so it learned very bad manners, and they shut it down very quickly. I think the newer versions of artificial intelligence, and certainly our hope for the future, is going to be that artificial intelligence learns better. And that's the key, Kathy. Artificial intelligence, maybe a better language, is machine learning. It isn't just what it's programmed to do. That's the dumb version we've grown up with. The future version is it learns for itself, and it actually gets better. So we don't just teach it things, we teach it how to learn things. And that's, of course, where there's great good that can come, but both you and I share, I think, a little bit of a fear. What will it learn to do, and who controls it?
I was going to say, how much learning can it actually do, and whose context does that learning involve? Because if this is effectively machines that are being developed in the first world, what's going to happen when you bring it to a context like South Africa or elsewhere in Asia? You know, what are the differences that are going to come up there?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and without trying to just look for humor in the question, my mind immediately goes to saying, I think there are some government ministers that I could easily see being replaced by a very old Nokia 3210, and we wouldn't even notice, right? But a more serious answer is yes, of course. Somebody is always going to own the machines or the software or the AI, and that must be the question that we need to ask. Who is the owner, and what does the owner want? And of course we know that when we look at the history of the last few hundred years, that hasn't gone well for Africa, right? And it hasn't gone well for people who are not in power. And so we need to have this conversation as society. Not be scared of the technology, because I think that great good can come when human beings and machines work together. And I think Estonia is showing that they can make better decisions as a government if they use technology. SoftBank is proving that they can make better decisions when they take out some human emotion and human bias. But of course, we need to make sure that everything is transparent. Simply put, for the computer nerds watching, we need the software to be transparent. So we need to know how the decisions are made, how the learning is happening, and make sure that it is for the benefit of everybody, building a better world for all, rather than just the owners of those machines.
You talk about a need to be able to embrace the direction in which technology is moving in. Very hard to do that if it's going to steal a politician's job. Heck, it could even steal my job right here on the Pulse.
And that's why we need to have better conversations. I like to think of it as being bionic. Bionic is an old word that maybe we don't use enough, which is about humans and machines together, integrated, not competing with each other. And what we need to be looking at is, let's take your job as an example. If all your job is reading information off of a screen, we can easily replace that. But that's not your job. Your job is to make sense, to ask the right questions, to push back if somebody gives you a vague answer. It's also to bring a human face and a humanity, emotions with it. Good journalists have to find that balance, right, between reporting what they see, but then also bringing humanity to the moment. And as long as we know what the human element of our job is, and we let the machines do the bit that machines can do, and we focus on the bits that bring the humanity to the job, and that's true of any job, whether it's a waiter in a restaurant or an actuary at a bank. If there's a human element to it, then machines and humans can work well together.
Is there an attempt, though, to make machines more human? So to bring in that friendliness, to bring in that little bit of emotion, maybe limited, but is that where the future is going?
I certainly think that some people are trying to do that, and there are robots. Again, this is a big thing in Japan, where they are using human-like robots to help people who are lonely, especially elderly people. They provide robots as part of the care. But they've discovered that even people who are not all there, who are battling with dementia and Alzheimer's, they can tell the difference. It's nice to have a companion robot, but it's not the same as a companion human being. So we're going to get closer. Humans and machines will get closer. We must work together, but I don't think that machines will ever fully replace humans, and I don't think humans should ever want that to happen. We've got to find the right balance.
All right, Graeme, thank you so much for coming into studio. Really great to have you with us here at the Pulse. And of course, that is Graeme Codrington. He is Futurist today with Tomorrow Today Global.